All right, so I was going through my fragrance collection, just kind of looking for, video ideas, and I came across this particular idea, which was like a top 10 list of fragrances, in my collection that I don't really wear as much as what I should. So I'm going to be going over that list here today. All right. Now, for the first fragrance, this one, it has here recently been pretty hard to find on most websites. For whatever reason, it seems to be sold out everywhere. I don't know exactly how long it's been sold out everywhere, but I know the last time that I looked, it was sold out on every site that I would typically find these fragrances at. And this one is Miraj Absolu from French Avenue. So it's their take on Leighton Exclusive from Parfums de Marly. Extremely close interpretation of Leighton Exclusive. I would say, I mean, for the money, and I mean, this was when it was available, one of the more expensive, French Avenue fragrances. I think when I bought this, I bought it for like $80, which is like super high for a French Avenue fragrance. And I think even, after the point, when I bought this fragrance, whenever I would see it available somewhere, it was typically on like the higher end of, French Avenue or Fragrance World fragrances. So this one was it was definitely kind of more so priced like a Maison des Parfums fragrance almost. But this is a much more kind of like woodier, more animalic sort of take on Leighton for the most part. To me, you don't get as much, sort of like lavender in this fragrance or in, even the original Leighton Exclusive as what you do in the original Leighton. This also is not to me as sort of spicy as what Leighton is. So like I said, it's more heavier on, like a woody sort of oud, like a clean woody oud anyway. And like I said, it does definitely have more of sort of like an animalic, sort of feel to the fragrance, but it is a very, very sexy fragrance for sure. It's not necessarily going to be for everybody, but I feel like, you would still wear this fragrance or, Leighton Exclusive, obviously, in any situation that you would the original Leighton, This is just a little bit more of sort of like a change of pace. I do kind of feel like the way that this fragrance wears is it does wear a little bit more like, I don't know, a little bit more on the aromatic side than what Leighton does. To me, Leighton does wear a little bit like slightly thicker than what, the Leighton Exclusive scent profile does. But this was like the closest thing to Leighton Exclusive that I had smelled for sure. It was definitely a lot closer than Anakid, which was the other popular Leighton Exclusive interpretation that had come out before this. But yeah, man, this was extremely good when it was out. Hopefully, this is not one of those fragrance world fragrances that are just gonna stay like out of stock for years. Hopefully, over time they will start to get these back into the United States or at least at discounters. But yeah, man, this is a very, very good interpretation. Super high quality, super close. I would say like at least 95% close or so to the original. Good performance, good quality. Overall, just a very, very sexy, nice scent. And again, this one is Miraj Absolu. All right, next one on the list of fragrances that I should definitely wear more in this collection would be a really, really underrated fragrance, I would say, from the house of Lattafa. And this one is Lattafa's Afkaar. So Afkaar, this was like, it was basically like a identical, almost identical interpretation of, what is it, Instant Crush from Mancera. The only difference being that, this has a little bit more mandarin orange in the top. But I mean, outside of that, you're still getting the exact same kind of like fruity, like basically the way that I would describe Instant Crush is kind of like a fruitier take on like Baccarat Rouge 540. Like it has the same sort of like feel to it, you know, when you're wearing it, except, you know, again, this scent profile, the Instant Crush profile, it has a more of a fruitier feel to it. Whereas I feel like, you know, Baccarat, that has more of sort of like this like saffron and like burnt sugar or burnt cotton candy sort of feel to it. This has, to me, kind of like, you know, still has like that sort of saffron smell to it. And it still has that very kind of like super airy cloud, you know, sort of feel to the fragrance as well. But it's a lot more fruitier. So, you know, it comes across definitely a little sweeter to me than what Baccarat does. And more sort of playful. Whereas, you know, I would say Baccarat to me comes across a little bit more kind of sophisticated, especially like with the ambergris that you get from, you know, Baccarat. Or, you know, what sort of feels or smells like ambergris in that particular fragrance. That you don't necessarily get that with this or even with Instant Crush. But this is still, I would say, a very good alternative. Like if you're maybe someone who's like sick of wearing specifically Baccarat Rouge 540, but you kind of want something like within the same vein. I think something like this Afkaar from Lattafa is definitely a nice, you know, sort of alternative. This, again, like I mentioned, it basically smells like identical in terms of like quality and smell to the original Instant Crush, with the exception of, you know, the Afkaar just having a slightly more amped up mandarin orange note in the initial opening. But, you know, outside of that, performance wise, this performs just as well as the Mancera does. Really long lasting, super high quality, really, really affordable. The only place that I've been able to find this fragrance, I believe, is the Oud store. And they tend to have this for a pretty decent price, I believe, like normally around $30 or so for this 100 ml bottle. So I would absolutely recommend this, you know, if you're looking for like an alternative to Instant Crush. This is absolutely going to be your best bet, all right? So again, check out Lattafa's Afkaar. All right, next one on the list, this one is from Joe Milano, and this is part of their Game of Spades line. This is Game of Spades Win. So Game of Spades Win is their take on Lafayette, or not Lafayette Street, Greenwich Village from Bond Number 9. And this, to me, so far, has been like the best, you know, Greenwich Village interpretation that I've smelled. I do feel like the original Bond Number 9, the florals in that are a little bit better, you know, and more sort of higher quality and realistic smelling than what it is in this fragrance. And it's the same sort of thing that I get with, you know, the difference between like Game of Spades Wild Card versus Lafayette Street. Like the Bond Number 9 does smell slightly higher quality, but I mean, I feel like for what you can get this for and what you have to pay for like the Bond Number 9, this is just like the easy choice in my opinion. It's again, I guess you could say within that sort of vein of something like Baccarat Rouge 540. So I mean, Baccarat has definitely had like a lot of, I guess you could say, kind of like spin-off fragrances that aren't, you know, necessarily associated with MFK or Baccarat Rouge 540, but a lot of other, you know, companies have kind of taken that scent profile and put their own twist on it. Same thing with like, you know, Herba Pura. There's tons of different variations of Herba Pura that are out there from different companies. So it's the same thing here, except this is a lot more sort of like floral heavy for sure. I would say, you know, you're getting a lot more of like a ambroxan type of smell, as opposed to like more of an ambergris type of smell that you get, you know, in Baccarat Rouge 540. This doesn't have any sort of like saffron smell to it either. So, you know, you're kind of getting like, I would say that really sort of like airy sort of base of Baccarat Rouge 540, but without really everything else. So without a lot of those sort of sweeter elements, and you're kind of replacing it with, you know, in the top notes, I think you get a slightly kind of citrusy type of feel from this. And then, you know, as it dries down, it definitely is a much more sort of floral type of scent than what Baccarat, or even, you know, something like, you know, the Instant Crush Afkaar sort of scent profile is. So this is going to be a very floral heavy scent. In my opinion, it's very kind of unisex. I could understand how some people may consider this to be, you know, slightly kind of feminine leaning, but I feel like, you know, especially if you're a guy that does tend to wear a lot of unisex types of scents, then you won't have any problems wearing this scent at all. And the one thing that I do like about the Game of Spades Win is it's very, very long lasting without necessarily being like super cloying or headache inducing. And I mean, again, the main difference that I would say is the florals are just not on the same level as what they are in the Bond number 9. But I would still say that this is at least like probably 85 to 90% close to, you know, the original. So for just a fraction of the cost, I believe normally you can find Game of Spades Win for like $50 to $60. I would say that this one is definitely a win over, you know, the original Bond number 9, considering how close it is. So again, man, definitely check out Game of Spades Win from Joe Milano. All right, next one on the list. This one is a aromatics fragrance, and this one is the Xandal fragrance. So this is very, very similar to Lorenzo Pizzaglia's Vampirum. But it also does have like some very stark, noticeable differences. And the differences that I actually like a lot more than I do the Vampirum. This to me has a little bit more of sort of like more of a chocolatey type of feel to it. I guess is the best way for me to kind of describe it. Basically, Vampirum, the way that opens up is it opens up very like rum heavy. So, you know, definitely it makes sense that rum is in the name of that fragrance, because the rum is like right there in your face. It lasts for a decent amount of time, and it smells pretty realistic in the Lorenzo Pizzaglia for sure. That's the one part about Xandal that I wish they would have maybe emphasized a little bit more, is that rum note. It is in this for sure, but I feel like when you first spray this on, you're getting more of like a mixture of like rum, patchouli, and like chocolate. Whereas again with the Vampirum, you're getting more of just like straight rum, like rum just poured straight into a cup, nothing mixed with it really, like just straight up rum. That's for the most part what you get more so with the Vampirum. But this is still very good though. You know, I would say definitely this will be probably preferred by people who feel like that rum note is a little bit too strong in the original fragrance. This is definitely a lot more smoother for sure. And again, it's kind of like a blend when you initially spray it on of like that rum mixed with like, I would say more so you probably get more chocolate and patchouli in the opening of this one than you do actual rum. So like if I had to like kind of divide them up, you know, into equal parts or whatnot, I would say you're probably getting 40% chocolate in the Xandal, 40% patchouli, and then like 20% rum in the opening. Whereas like with the original, it's probably like around 85% rum, and then like patchouli, I would say. Also, the way that the patchouli is done in this fragrance, to me, it just smells better than what it does in the original. It smells a lot more like medicinal in the Vampirum than what it does in the Xandal. And the vanilla in this is also very, very good. It smells super high quality, really smooth. Doesn't smell too like overly sweet or feminine or anything like that. Like I would still say that this is definitely like a unisex scent. But you'll definitely have to be someone who likes sweeter, darker scents for sure. But yeah, man, this is extremely good. The performance on it is also very good as well. This was beast mode on my skin, so it does really project a lot. And the longevity is also very good as well. I just haven't really gotten a chance to wear this fragrance because I think when I picked this one up, it was kind of like, at least out here in Las Vegas, it was like that transition between like the winter basically going into like, I guess, the spring. And our spring out here is a lot warmer than I feel like most other people's springs are. So yeah, man, this one is very, very good. I definitely need to wear this one a lot more, this coming winter for sure. So again, man, definitely check out Xandal from French Avenue. All right, next one on the list. This is another one from French Avenue. This is a part of the Equestrian series, and this one is Pierce. So Pierce, this is their take on Parfums de Marly's, what is it? Perseus. So what I like to kind of say, especially like between Perseus and Greenlee, is I kind of feel like the two are like cousins or something like that. So they're both like, you could say fruity or citrusy, woody style scents. Just one is using like a different type of, fruit or citrus than the other. So this is more of sort of like a orange citrus for the most part in woods is what you get with, Perseus for sure. And then, the Greenlee scent profile is more sort of like this green apple mixed with vetiver and woods for the most part. So they don't smell similar at all, but I kind of feel like they're doing something similar, just with like different sort of fruits and woods for the most part. But yeah, man, I would say this is one of my favorite this is one of my favorite like woodier style scents is what I would say. I don't typically wear like a lot of like super woody, scents. So this fragrance to me, this is a very good scent, man. It does have a slight sort of maturity to it, so I don't necessarily think that this is going to be necessarily for like somebody like, I don't know, 25 and under necessarily. But I think if you're like 25, 30 and up, this is definitely a scent that, you can absolutely appreciate. And I mean, it does smell very good, man. Like I said, it's a very kind of simple scent, just like how Greenlee is. Like I said, that one is just for the most part, like apple, vetiver, and woods. This one is for the most part just kind of like orange, maybe some other sort of citruses like bergamot and stuff like that. And then, you get a very prominent sort of woody base to the fragrance. And I mean, it smells very masculine for sure. I don't know why I don't necessarily reach for this one that much. But it is definitely, it's a scent that I do need to wear more. And I mean, it does actually have pretty good performance as well. I mean, longevity on this every time I wear it, it's easily over 8 hours. And the projection, while it's not like, I would say the most beast mode scent, it is still definitely stronger than something like, you know, the Greenleaf scent profile. I would say, at least off of my skin anyway, it is. So it does, you know, kind of project at least about an arm's length or so for probably like the first hour and a half, and then it does dial back after that. But yeah, man, again, I would definitely say that this is definitely a scent that I do need to wear a little bit more. Again, this one is Pierce from French Avenue. All right, next one on the list, this one is from Swiss Arabian, and this one is Shaghaf Oud Azraq. So Shaghaf Oud Azraq, I feel like I don't wear this one enough. And this is definitely, it's one of the better, you know, scents that I have in my collection, man. Starts off very heavy on honey and oud for sure. And I mean, I would say, you know, definitely if you're somebody who is not very like used to wearing oud fragrances or experienced with oud fragrances, this one may kind of throw you off with the oud. Really, I would say really with the way that it's kind of mixed with the honey, because the honey makes it, you know, very kind of like thick and dense and sweet. But then you have like this kind of like animalic sort of oud mixed with it as well. At least that's the way that it, you know, I feel like it comes across. So it makes for like a very like Middle Eastern smelling type of scent for sure. This is definitely not like your like clean westernized oud or anything like that. Like this does smell very kind of Middle Eastern. But I would say probably once you kind of get past like 45 minutes to an hour or so, then you start getting more into like the spicier elements of this scent, which, you know, at least for me, they smell really, really good off of my skin, man. So, I mean, to me, this almost kind of comes across as like sort of like a gourmand scent, at least in the dry down, at least for me anyway. And this overall, I think, is a very high quality, but, you know, yet again, very affordable scent. Now, I need to like really kind of dive deep between this and Montal's Honey Oud, which I believe Honey Oud is what, you know, this is actually inspired by. I've seen some people say that like Honey Oud blows this out of the water, and then I've seen some people say that, you know, this comes very, very close to it, to where, you know, the differences are really kind of negligible. So I'll have to kind of see for myself, but either way, I'm very happy with the way that Shaghaf Oud Azraq smells. Again, I do think that this is one of Swiss Arabian's best scents that I've smelled anyway. It's just not necessarily going to be for everyone. And it is definitely a scent that I think is more so suited towards cooler weather. This is not something that I would wear like in the spring or summertime out here. And like even right now, I mean, we're technically in the fall, but at least out here in Las Vegas, I mean, it doesn't really start to get like fall temperatures until probably late October, early November, I would say. So this would definitely kind of be more so suitable for me to wear from probably like November through, I don't know, February to March or so. All right. So again, man, definitely check out Shaghaf Oud Azraq from Swiss Arabian. All right, next one on the list. This one is a Bandier fragrance, and this one is Bandier's number 7. So Bandier number 7, this is their take on Oud Roses from Ahmed Al Maghribi, and it's not like a one-to-one, you know, interpretation or anything like that. This is definitely more of sort of like a twist, but a very, very nice and welcome twist, I would say. This has more of sort of like a fresher, fruitier feel to it. And the oud is definitely like, you can still tell that there absolutely is oud in this. And this does to me still have like a Middle Eastern type of vibe to it. But this is a lot more wearable in my opinion than what, you know, the original Oud Roses is. So this fragrance is very kind of like, I would say fruity, floral. It's very sort of like aromatic as well. And again, it does have like that sort of oud backbone to it, but the oud in this is, it's not like a skanky oud or anything like that. Like it, to me, it just kind of adds like a base and character to this fragrance. And you know, I think this is very, very much, you know, a unisex style scent. It's also a very versatile scent as well, in my opinion. So I think this is definitely something that has enough strength for you to wear in like the fall and the winter time and even the spring, but it's still something that is light enough that I don't think that you would like, I don't think it would become super cloying if you were to wear this in the summertime. Now, obviously, you wouldn't spray this the same amount of times that you would in the summertime. You know, you wouldn't spray this the same amount of times that you would in the winter in the summertime. But, you know, I would still say that this is still a fragrance that you could absolutely wear in the summertime. And especially if you live somewhere where it doesn't get extremely hot, like, you know, how it does here in Vegas. Now, even though it does get well over 100 degrees here, I still think even in 100-degree heat, this would still be like a serviceable choice. As far as the amount of sprays that I would probably go with this, I would probably keep it to like 2 to 3 sprays maximum if I were to wear it out here in the summertime. But I do still think that this is light enough and fresh enough to where this would still smell very, very nice, you know, even in 100-degree weather out here. And, you know, this, just like most other Bandier fragrances, you know, this does have pretty decent performance on it. So the performance on this is, you know, well past 8 hours, and it gives really, really good projection well past the arm's length for at least like the first 2 to 3 hours. So really, really nice, underrated, you know, twist on another, you know, scent profile from Bandier. And again, this one is number 7 from Bandier Fragrance. All right, next one on the list. This one is from Paris Corner, and this one is Paris Corner's Mysterium. So Mysterium, since I've had this fragrance, you know, I would say really after like I first got it and was really kind of testing it out. Since that point, I've only kind of worn this like a few times, and each time that I wear this, I can definitely say that I'm starting to like this more and more. Now, I still like this one a lot when I actually first got it and was, you know, comparing it to the Monkey Special. This, like I said, as I start to wear it more and more, and I don't know if it's maybe it's just due to the fragrance sort of maturating and, you know, kind of coming more into what it's supposed to be. This is still, I would say, a very, very underrated fragrance that, you know, even for me, myself, I probably need to wear more. This is basically, it's a fruity, I would say a fruity, oud heavy, patchouli heavy type of scent is really the best way for me to kind of describe this one. And what I like the most about this scent is this, to me, it smells more wearable, or it's more up my alley than what the original Monkey Special is, at least for me anyway. Now, I know there's probably some people that completely disagree with that, and, you know, they absolutely love Monkey Special. That's fine. But at least for me, when I wore Monkey Special, you know, side by side to Mysterium, even though in certain like aspects I could tell that Monkey Special was using higher quality ingredients and, you know, it was technically better blended, I feel like when it comes down to whether or not a scent actually smells good or not, that doesn't necessarily like the a scent being higher quality or better blended. I don't think that always necessarily equates to it being the better smelling scent. Um, Again, some people may disagree with that, but at least for me anyway, I've definitely run into some instances where I've smelled a technically lower quality scent that, at least for me anyway, it smelled like the better scent for me than what the higher quality, more expensive scent did. And this is definitely one of those scents for sure. Um, this is definitely, like I said, you'll have to be someone that is into like woodier scents. And I'm not necessarily always, that person necessarily. It just kind of depends on how the fragrance is done. But I really feel like Paris Corner, they put like a very, very good, sort of twist on the scent profile. And they made a very, very nice scent with this one. Like I said, I do prefer this over the original for sure, man. The original to me, it just smelled, I don't know, a little bit too sort of medicinal for me. It just wasn't something that I would wear, despite it, being the higher quality scent. So performance on this is also very good as well. So I mean, longevity wise, I'm talking over 10 hours on skin, and the projection on it is also pretty decent as well, at least like an arm's length or so for like the first 2 hours. So again, man, I would say definitely, if you have Mysterium in your collection and you haven't worn it in a while, maybe, pull it out, like especially around this time of the year, and kind of give it a wearing and see, how you like it now, man. Because I feel like this scent is definitely one that I'll be wearing a lot more, this coming like winter and spring. So again, man, check out Paris Corner's Mysterium. All right, next one on the list, man. This one, I don't know why I really haven't worn this one a lot, but this is definitely one that I feel like I absolutely need to wear a lot more. This is a part of that Amber Oud line from Al Haramain, and this is Amber Oud Dubai Night. So it's their take on Arabian's Tonka from Montal. And I mean, like I mentioned before, and what I'll continue to mention is this to me is a more wearable, version of Arabian's Tonka. Arabian's Tonka, for sure, it has a little bit more of like a thicker, denser type of feel to it. This comes across a little bit more fresher and airier. And I think that is what makes this one a little bit more wearable. The scents overall, I would say, don't really smell that different, other than just kind of like the sort of texture of the two fragrances. But I do feel like that freshness that you get from this fragrance, the Amber Oud Dubai Night, like I said, it just makes it a little bit more versatile. It makes it a little bit more easier to wear. And, I would say it makes it easier to wear both for the wearer, and it makes it easier on the nose for others around you, because this fragrance, since it's not as dense, to me, it's a little bit easier on the nose. Like, even though I can tell that this is a super beast mode, super strong scent, it never really becomes like super cloying to me whenever I wear it anyway. Even though I can definitely still smell this fragrance like projecting like crazy well past probably 3-4 hours, it never really gets to the point where it's like, man, this is way too much. And I mean, typically whenever I spray this, I normally go like probably 4 to 5 sprays or so. And again, this is a super, super strong scent. It's super strong, super sweet. It does definitely have kind of like that sort of oud rose sort of feel to it for sure. So, it has some potency. It has oud, it has rose. I believe there's some saffron in this. It has like sugary notes. Like I mentioned before, like especially in the top, you get like a combination of citruses as well that are definitely way more prominent in this fragrance than what they are in the original Arabian's Tonka. And then definitely in the dry down, you kind of get like this sort of sweet Tonka feel as well. But overall, this is a very underrated, sexy Middle Eastern style, type of scent that I feel like, even though it does smell very Middle Eastern, it is still very wearable. I would say even here in the West for sure. I feel like most people, if they smell this, they're not gonna dislike this fragrance. Despite it having, like oud and rose and stuff like that in it. And I mean, I think this is definitely, in my opinion, kind of like a unisex style scent. But I do feel like I tend to see more so men, kind of gravitating towards wearing this particular scent. So, again, man, like I mentioned, I need to wear this one more because it is a very sexy scent. I wear this one day or night, despite the name Dubai Night. I do definitely feel like it does fit the nighttime pretty well. So this would definitely be like a really, really nice clubbing type of scent. But I tend to wear this one, day or nighttime. And I really have no issue with doing that. So definitely, man, again, check out Al Haramain's Amber Oud Dubai Night. All right, and then the last one on the list, man, this is a part of the Royal Blend line, and this is Royal Blend Vintage. So Royal Blend Vintage, this one, I really like this one a lot, man. I tend to really like super alcoholic opening, fragrances that smell like, I would say, really realistic to, some sort of alcohol or liquor. And that's basically what you get with this one. I believe the liquor that's used in this is like whiskey is what you're getting with this in the opening. And it smells like it, man. It smells like somebody just poured you a glass of whiskey. I would say really with no sort of ice or anything like that. But you're drinking this glass of whiskey in like I don't want to say a barn, but like somewhere where there's kind of like I don't know, maybe like a grain mill or something like that, or somewhere where there's like a lot of barley and grain around and stuff like that. Like you kind of get like this dry sort of barley type of feel from this fragrance, mixed with again that whiskey that you're drinking. And then what I really like about this one is as it starts to dry down, you start to get, I would say, kind of like that boozy sort of feeling, like that malt sort of liquor type of feeling, mixed with vanilla. And the vanilla in this, the way that it comes in, the way that it's done, is very nice, man. Doesn't come across like overly sweet or anything like that, or feminine, nothing like that. It just adds to like the feel of this fragrance, and it kind of warms it up a little bit. So I really do like that. This has pretty average performance, so like I would say around 5 to 6 hours or so is what you're gonna get in terms of longevity with this fragrance. But it's definitely going to be more than what you get like with the original. What is it? Old Fashioned, I believe, is the original from by Killian. So yeah, man, I mean, I really enjoy this one. Like I said, you do definitely have to be somebody who likes the smell of like alcoholic, type of fragrances. So if you don't want to smell like somebody poured a drink on you, then I would say this one is not going to be for you at all. But I do like those types of smells, especially like, I think probably my favorite alcoholic sort of, smelling note would probably have to be rum, I think. you know, the way that that's done most of the times in most fragrances, especially like higher end niche fragrances where they're using like really high quality ingredients, it typically smells really, really amazing. It normally is a note that doesn't necessarily last that long, unfortunately, but it does tend to, you know, really smell amazing in the opening. And that's pretty much, that's what I get here, man, is, you know, a really boozy opening. You know, you get, you know, sort of like a woody, sort of dry feeling from this as well. And then you get like a warm, sweet vanilla that kind of comes in. So again, man, definitely check out Royal Blend Vintage from French Avenue. All right, and that's the list, man. That is my top 10 list of fragrances that I really need to wear more of in my collection. Definitely let me know in the comments if you all have any or all of these fragrances. And if you do have any of these fragrances, are you also just not, for whatever reason, reaching for any of these fragrances that often for whatever reason? So let me know in the comments below. Also, I have links in the description to where you can pick up all of these fragrances. Obviously, with the exception of the Miraj Absolu, I'll still look and see if this is available anywhere. But if not, then obviously I will not have a link for this one. And if you're brand new to the channel, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. And again, that's Jamar from Vegas Sense. I'll see y'all in the next video.